So this idea of organisms responding to environmental signals, these induced responses, it's important to think about why organisms need to do that. So obviously, it's hugely advantageous for a lot of different reasons, whether it's helping their ability to acquire foods and nutrients, avoid attacks by predators, parasites, or herbivores, or their ability to successfully reproduce. All of these things are really important for an organism to be able to survive. And another key component of being able to respond to environmental signals and enhance your fitness is being able to maintain homeostasis. Okay, so when I talk about homeostasis, what I'm talking about is when an organism actively regulates and maintains a constant internal physiological state in the face of changing environmental conditions. So homeostasis is all about an organism maintaining balance. And if you guys don't mind, open up your chat and give me some examples of factors that organisms need to actively regulate or maintain homeostasis for. So what's something that we maintain homeostasis for? So body temperature is a great example. Blood sugar, that's another great example. Blood oxygen levels, that's another great example. Okay, so all of these things, we have to keep our body at a particular temperature. We've got to keep our blood sugar at a particular rate. We've got to keep the level of sort of water and electrolytes that we have in our body at a particular level. And if we move outside of those levels, it can be extremely, extremely dangerous and even cause death, right? And so the question sort of comes about of like, why? Why do we have to do that? What's going on sort of at the cellular level that we have to maintain our O2 at a very particular level or our heart rate at a very particular level? What's going on at the physiological cellular scale? And so this whole idea of homeostasis, the whole point here is that it helps organisms maintain optimum conditions for important cellular, molecular, and physiological reactions to proceed. So, even at the cellular level, you need a particular level of oxygen for each of those cells to be able to do aerobic cellular respiration, or those cells are going to die. And you need a particular pH, and you need a particular temperature for all these subcellular level chemical reactions that allow your individual cells and therefore you to survive. You've got to maintain those things at the right conditions for all of these cellular level reactions to proceed. And optimum conditions can actually vary greatly for different organisms, depending on a lot of different factors. And so that's what we're going to spend some time talking about over the next few lectures. Specifically, we're going to talk about two important things that we have to maintain. Number one is water balance or osmolality, and number two is temperature or thermoregulation. So first, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of water regulation. This guy, Terrence McSwinney, he basically went on a hunger strike when he was incarcerated, and he lived for 74 days without eating food. So as it turns out, we can live for a very, very long time without eating food. However, for water, you can only live for about 3 or 4 days. Some have lasted a little bit longer, but typically after 3 or 4 days, you're going to die if you don't consume any water. And, part of that is because such a huge part of us is water. Our body's 60% water, our brains are 70% water, our lungs are 90% water. And it's super, super important to maintain normal levels of water and hydration for cell function, lubrication of joints, cellular reactions, blood volume. So many different things depend on maintaining good amounts of hydration. Now, as it turns out, you need to stay hydrated, but you also have to stay balanced. Okay, so what do I mean by balanced? You can actually overdrink. You can drink too much water. So this story is a great example here where a woman actually died after being in a water drinking contest because she drank too much water. So not only do you have to stay hydrated, but you've also got to stay balanced. So I want to show you this quick video about this idea of maintaining osmolality. Let me see.
Water is amazing. It's necessary for life to exist, makes you healthier.
And it's really refreshing, especially after an intense workout. But is water intoxication a real thing? Can you drink too much water? We're often told to drink around 8 glasses of water a day to stay healthy. But the honest truth is that this specific number is somewhat arbitrary and no scientific research exists to support it. Regardless, we know water is incredibly important. In fact, every organism we know of requires water to survive. Not only does it help the human body to bring oxygen and nutrients to the cells, regulate body temperatures, and aid metabolism, but it flushes waste out of the body. Sweat out too much during a sporting event, and you'll start to feel a bit woozy. 3 days without water, and you likely won't survive. So how could such an essential substance hurt us? It all comes down to the cellular level. The water you drink has very few electrolytes in it, things like sodium or potassium, especially compared to your cells. The electrolytes in your cells allow your muscles and nerves to work properly and help to control blood pressure and blood volume. Without them, your body cannot function. Now, normally, the difference in electrolyte concentration inside and outside the cell wouldn't pose a problem because your kidneys flush out any excess water. However, the kidneys can only excrete fluid at a certain rate. This means that consuming a lot of water in a short period of time creates a large concentration difference. As a result, water is drawn into the cells in an attempt to dilute the concentration and even out the proportion of electrolytes, and this causes the cells to swell. The problem is, unlike other parts of your body, the brain literally has no room inside the skull for these newly pumped cells. This results in extreme headaches and confusion, leading to seizures, comas, respiratory arrest, and even death. So should you be worried? Not likely. Cases of water intoxication are very rare, though they do happen in extreme circumstances. Close to 1/6 of marathon runners develop mild cases in their careers, with all endurance athletes at a higher risk. This is because under the extremes of athletic stress, the body attempts to conserve water. So not only are you taking more water in, you're peeing less out. Science says, though you're not likely to suffer from water intoxication, you should drink to your thirst. It's the best indicator. Don't forget, we have a new video out every day.
Okay. So basically the idea here is that not only do you need to stay hydrated, but you don't want to overdrink because that can screw up your osmolality. So this balance of water and electrolytes is something called osmoregulation, and many organisms need to do it. But how they do it really varies a lot, and it depends on a lot of different factors, okay? So it can depend on habitat type, whether you're terrestrial or aquatic, and also whether you're in a salty or freshwater environment. Terrestrial environments, the really big issue in terms of maintaining or osmoregulating is evaporative water loss, whereas in an aquatic environment, something called tonicity and osmosis are the important factors that you need to osmoregulate if you're an organism in these different environments. And in addition, mobility is really important. So the way that one organism that's able to move in and out of environment really quickly osmoregulates is going to vary a lot from organisms like plants and trees and small organisms that are sort of stuck in the environment that they're in. So the ability to change your habitat is super useful, and a lot of organisms don't have that option. In addition, how organisms osmoregulate can depend on a lot of different factors related to organismal complexity. And so you can look at complex multicellular organisms, simple multicellular organisms, or unicellular organisms. And that's actually what we're going to do. And each of these different organisms has evolved different adaptations to deal with this idea of osmoregulation in terms of their structures, their physiologies, and their behaviors. And so the way or the direction that we're going is we're going to be looking at all of these different sort of groups: unicellular taxa, simple multicellular taxa, and complex multicellular taxa. And these specific groups: protists, prokaryotes, fungi, plants, and fish, and looking at what are the adaptations that these groups have evolved to enable them to osmoregulate.